Hey and welcome, I'm Hammeh, and hooray, we have some Overwatch Lore news for you. Now, as BlizzCon 2019 comes ever closer, and rumours of what new Overwatch announcements, including maybe a new game or some major new game content, start to swell, surprise of surprises, an Overwatch Novel has popped up for pre-order on Amazon. In this video I'm going to share the news, think about what lore-wise it could contain, and the wider context of this, what it means for Overwatch and Overwatch lore and story in the months and years ahead even. So, firstly, what's the story? Well, the story is The Hero of Numbani, a book that has been listed on Amazon as of a couple of days ago before the weekend by Nicky Drayden, and more on Nikki Graydon later. She seems an awesome author to be taking this on. Now, what's the story? Well, it's set in Numbani, in the not-so-distant future where humans live in harmony with humanoid robots known as Omnics. So far, so good. But when a terrorist tries to shatter that unity, a hero named Ify Oladeli arises. Now, Ify has been making robots since she was little, machines to better her community and improve people's lives. But after she witnesses Doomfist's catastrophic attack on the city's OR-15 security robots, hi Numbani Airport, you still need repairing, Ify still needs the call to build something greater, a true guardian of Numbani. While Doomfist sows discord between humans and Omnics, Ify engineers an intelligent and compassionate robot, Orisa, named after the powerful spirits who guide her people. Orisa has a lot to learn before she's ready to defeat Doomfist, but Ify has some learning to do too, especially when it comes to building and being a hero. With Doomfist rallying his forces and the military powerless to stop him, can Ify mould Orisa into the hero of Numbani before it's too late? Now, the blurb finishes with this action-packed novel features the fan-favourite characters Ify, Orisa, Doomfist and Lucio in an all-new original story straight from the minds of the Overwatch game team and critically acclaimed author Nicky Drayden. So, firstly, what could this mean for the lore? Well, this has a publishing date at the moment of May 2020. Amazon do holding dates, but one thing's for sure, it's probably not here anytime soon, certainly going to be next year by the sounds of things. This is also labelled Book 1, so maybe a series, very much like the comics. I'll talk about that more later when we talk about the overall context of this and what it could mean for Overwatch story. But in terms of Overwatch lore, here we have something covering probably a time period that we've been shown in a bit of brief detail in Ify's origin trailer and Orisa's origin trailer. We have seen this along with the little news articles, for example, that led up to Orisa being launched. But then it looks as though it's just going to go slightly above and beyond that. So in world building, in storytelling, you have the challenge of kind of, breadth versus depth. Breadth, how wide you're going, how all-encompassing, how many different things that your world and your story are covering. And then also the depth, like how much detail you get into in terms of individual characters, individual stories, background, motivations, and similar. This feels like it's going to be taking a period of time that we know a little bit about already in terms of breadth of the story, or width, and then really digging into it and possibly going beyond and into new territory as well. So with Doomfist rallying his forces and the military powerless to stop him, it might be that we see a little bit as to what happens after the events of the Numbani Airport, after Doomfist reclaiming his gauntlet, maybe some additional battles in Numbani, in the area, and a lot more. And let's not forget that for Overwatch lore and world building in general, Numbani is a very interesting place which may yet have some additional answers to questions that we have. It's one of the places in the world where humans and Omnics live together in not only sort of comparative harmony, but also thriving with the technological advances and elements and aspects. Things that remind me of things such as Katya Volskaya getting help with her various tech for the Svyatogor mechs over in Russia that we saw in the events of infiltration from an unknown Omnic. Could that Omnic perhaps be from Numbani? Could we learn more about how Numbani brings Omnics and humans together? What kind of technological advances there are? How Omnic society works here? Could we learn more about Omnics in general and how perhaps some of them are sentient, how some of them have had this enlightenment as Zenyatta and those Shambhali monks and Takatha Mondata previously have kind of described. So in this story, in this setting, there are so many opportunities to not only go into a lot more depth into not only this individual setting of story of Numbani, of Ify, of Orisa, of Doomfist, of Omnic, perhaps enlightenment, intelligence, awakening, all of these kind of things as well. We can see a lot more about the Overwatch world. There could also be some things, as I said, like the Katya Volskaya type thing that maybe could be dropped in, could be linked in. So I see opportunity for breadth outside of this particular novel setting too. So I know some people are probably thinking, well, we already know this story. I actually, within this setting, see a whole amazing set of opportunities to not only go into into real depth into some characters and elements of the Overwatch universe, but also maybe expand the sort of borders, the width as to what we know, and tie into other elements outside of this more local setting too. So it's going to be really exciting, really looking forward to this. Now, a quick note about Nicky Drayden. Now, Nicky Drayden seems to be an awesome author, from reading her bio and a little bit of the novels she's released already, to take this on, describing herself as a systems analyst who dabbles in prose when she's not buried in code. Such a person is clearly going to have cool things to draw on when trying to write and sculpt the world of Ify, of Orisa, of this technological Numbani, which is going to be fascinating. Now, Drayden has already had one novel on the New York Times Best of New Science Fiction and Fantasy list, as well as the Wall Street Journal's summer reading list as well, and that is The Prey of Gods. Now, I've read a little bit of the synopsis. I'm actually going to go and buy the book and read it because it looks really cool after this. It's a near-future thriller set in South Africa in which a diverse set of characters, imbued with supernatural abilities by a street drug called Godsend, must band together against a disenfranchised goddess who intends to remake their world and change the fate of humanity forever. So Drayden, obviously in the area of speculative fiction, and the piece of this book that I read introduced two characters and their personal companion robots as they met up ahead of a coming-of-age ritual and celebration for one of the two. It'll be interesting to see what tone this strikes and how it's pitched at. This is going to be published by Scholastic, who many of you will know as sort of being a perhaps young adult publisher in some senses, but they also do and are known for a wide variety of like educational materials and things like that. They have, however, of course, been known as the publishers of The Hunger Games and things like that, and Harry Potter over in the USA. Obviously in the UK that's done by Bloomsbury. So what I'd say from the little bit of Drayden's writing that I've read so far, and I'm going to go and read that book, don't take the fact that it's from Scholastic as being necessarily that it's not going to be sort of dealing with slightly more complicated issues. I don't think this is going to be sort of straight down the line young adult, if that makes sense in terms of the tone of its fiction, but we'll have to wait and see. Either way, from Drayden's writing, I'm really optimistic for this book, and I think there's some really cool things that could come into the lore from it, both in terms of depth of the Overwatch world and also the width of what we know about it so far. So last but by no means least, what could this mean for Overwatch and the development of the game, of the story of the world, in firstly the month to come, but also the months and years ahead? Now, many people have come into the world of Blizzard with Overwatch and don't have experience of the worlds of World of Warcraft or Warcraft, StarCraft, Diablo and other universes that Blizzard have put together in both gaming and wider literature and story and world building form. So whenever I talk in these videos, I always like to remind myself, and then also you guys, if you've not experienced that side of Blizzard, that Blizzard commit to their stories and their worlds for a long time, 10, 15 years. The Warcraft anniversary is coming up, a very chunky one there. So Overwatch wise, compared to 15, 20 years, we're really at the beginning of that journey still, 3+ years since launch. Now, I'm particularly excited with that context because the Hero of Numbani and a book being announced, a novel being announced, is Blizzard starting to kick off additional forms of world building outside of the things that they, I'm going to say, own. So this is working with collaborators to expand the world in different ways, and they've done this in Warcraft, StarCraft, Diablo, and in many other forms. In Warcraft, for example, they work with Christy Golden, who's written in the worlds of the Forgotten Realms, Ravenloft, Star Wars, Star Trek, and a whole bunch more. If you're a long-term StarCraft fan like I, then they've worked with Timothy Zahn, who wrote some brilliant Star Wars books. And alongside these, there have been short stories on the Blizzard websites. There have been audio books that Blizzard have done as well. There have been several different cool kinds of things alongside novels that they've done to expand their worlds beyond things like Blizzard published comics and the animated shorts. So this Hero of Numbani book for me is the beginning of that process for Overwatch. And when we think of how Overwatch originally released and the glut of animated shorts and comics that we had around launch, I think it's doubly exciting, especially with BlizzCon 2019 coming up. So I will leave you on this speculative thought. To me, it feels like this is book number 1. It's labelled book number 1. We're going to be seeing a series of books. However long that takes, of course, writing a novel is by no means a quick thing. We're going to see some more comics. That's been talked about in various streams where streamers at Blizzard HQ have asked Jeff and similar members of the team questions. There's going to be another set of comics. And this summer, of course, we haven't had the usual, I'm going to call it usual over the last 3 years, animated short and map. We're already into October and BlizzCon is about 4 weeks away. So, what are the team doing? Where has the animated short gone? Where has the map gone? We had a quiet time on comics and a couple of very cool short stories in between. Could it be that all of this stuff is being saved up for a wave 2 of Overwatch lore and story? And what would be a better thing to launch a wave 2 of Overwatch lore and story, animated short, this novel coming out next year, a new set of comics, than a new Overwatch game of some kind, right? That has to be it, surely. So I'm going to leave you on that. I feel that it's going to be a very, very exciting time, not only over the next 4 weeks, but also the months and years ahead for Overwatch and Overwatch lore. And I see this book as being a big part of it. So what do you think of this book? What do you think of the announcement? What do you think could be coming up at BlizzCon? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. And if you like this video, throw a like and subscribe. Check out my playlists where I've covered everything to do with Overwatch lore, story, and more over the existence of Overwatch and even before it launched. Sorry, I've been a bit quiet recently, by the way. I'm going to drop a short note on my community tab on my YouTube channel if you want to go and read that and catch up about that. But I'm back and making videos and very, very excited for everything coming up in the world of Overwatch, in the world of Blizzard, and who knows, perhaps beyond in future too. Cheers for tuning in. I've been Hammeh. Take it easy.